sunny day. I hope you learn something. I hope you learn something. I hope you learn something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny
Howdy, howdy. Welcome to the daily All Hat, No Cattle News Rodeo. I'm your host, Hats. Hello, YouTube. Hello, D-Live. Hello, Trovo. Nice to see you all, as always. Got some breaking news. It just happened coming out of Arizona. I will get to that in the after show. Let's just say it's good news for all you party animals headed to ASU this fall. I'll leave it at that for now. Also in the after show, we've got a pretty big Law and Order block. Lots to talk about there, including a police officer suing the NFL over remarks they made about him and inferences they made about him during last year's Say Their Name campaign. But of course, in the first half of the show, the YouTube block, as I like to call it, we have a number of things, not only a bit of national news, but also some state news, including, let me just take a quick peek at one of them here before you look at it, including how people are actually leaving their jobs more than ever before, at least in recent history, and the reasoning behind that. Some very fascinating stories in that article, and that's from the Wall Street Journal, so obviously a archived article. And we also have a story about GOP lawmakers recently unveiling a bill to defund schools teaching the 1619 Project. But first of all, let us get to our live stream, and it looks like I screwed up the stories when I created the links to them, so let me fix that real quickly. let me get that. I apologize once again. Quality live production here on the All Hat No Cattle News Rodeo. And there we have it. Okay, so first up, our Babylon Bee bookend on the left. This is from their world section. Biden announces Putin meeting was a success. Hunter now has a job with Russian pipeline. And there is a picture of 46 asterisk himself, looking quite sporty in blue and flashing that $1,000 smile. Dateline, Geneva, Russia. President Joe Biden, get that by the way, Geneva, Russia. President Joe Biden has announced to the world that talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin have been a massive success. Quoting Biden, "We had a real breakthrough, me and old Putin. I stared him down and said, 'Look, pal, here's the deal. You get whatever you want, but my son will get a cushy job over on the Russian pipeline.' Well, suffice to say, my son is now employed again, and the board of Nord Stream 2 will get my son's expertise. Putin caved to my demands, all in exchange for access to our nation's secrets, surveillance, and some sanctions against America," announced Biden as he was met with thunderous applause from all journalists present. "I took him to the cleaners and didn't hold back." Close quote. "Wow, no president can make a deal quite like Biden can," said MSNBC journalist Kathy Pigeons, welling up with tears. "Finally, a president who can stand up to that bully Vladimir Putin and create jobs for the American people." Close quote. Most Americans were hoping to hear news addressing cyber terrorism concerns, resuming diplomatic relations, and easing tensions between the two nations. But once they realized that Hunter Biden got a job, those concerns seemed trivial. Quote, "Well, the President of the United States wouldn't have gone all that way to talk to Putin if it wasn't in our best interest." Close quote. Hunter Biden was asked for comment, but he had already begun celebrating this big win for America. By the way, I do have a Hunter story coming up regarding his entry into the art world. And it's not all that you might think it is. But I'll get to that in a little while. Continuing right along, first off, my personal conceit, the market, and it has recently closed down. It was an up and down day on the market today, finally resting at just below the 34,300 mark, down a little under 0.3%. The S&P 500 and NASDAQs were also down fractionals. The NASDAQ taking the biggest hit, down almost a full 0.75%, now dangerously close to slipping again below the 14,000 mark. Gold is again sliding. China is becoming quite the bear on the commodities market, and it's dragging prices down with it. Some people don't think it can hold that trend, though. We'll have to see. Crude oil surges almost a full 2% as it continues to climb, now well over $72 per barrel of West Texas Intermediate sweet crude, currently at 72.27 cents. And Bitcoin has been flirting off and on with the 40,000 mark today, currently sitting at 39,729 and change per coin. Okay, folks. It's not a day without something new being racist. As we've all seen, just last week we found out that apple pie was racist. Oh, good to know. So I, of course, went out and bought an apple pie factory just to show them. I mean, what else are you going to do? But now we found out from the Washington Post that birds are racist. Now, not that robin sitting out in your front yard eyeing worms, although they're really listening for the worms, not looking for them. Some people think they're using their eyes when in fact they're using their ears. But it turns out that it's not the birds themselves that are racist, it's their names. You see, back in the day, the people who named birds were a bit problematic, and they used the names of certain citizens who had unsavory alliances, say with the slave trade, or believe it or not, certain people who would dig up bones in Indian cemeteries and use the skulls to try and prove certain mental theories. That was a thing, folks, believe it or not, that was a thing. It was called, what was it called again? Not craniotomy. Shoot, I suddenly forgot the name of it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It was a thing, and it has since passed well into the dustbin of history. But it seems that there are a lot of current ornithologists with names that don't sound American who believe that the entire bird structure is racist, and they blame in part the original Mr. Audubon himself. And who are we to judge? Now, of course, Twitter absolutely launched on the Washington Post, as well it should. My favorite take on it by far was from Babylon Bee's CEO Seth Dillon, and he tweeted the following: "If you want evidence of just how far we've come in terms of putting racism behind us, just look at how far we have to reach to find it now." Now here's my favorite quote. This is Asian American ornithologist Olivia Wang, and she said the following in the article: "The birds' names are a reminder that this field I work in was primarily developed and shaped by people not like me, who probably would have viewed me as lesser. They are also a reminder of how Western ornithology and natural exploration in general was often tied to a colonialist mindset of conquering and exploiting and claiming ownership of things, rather than learning from the humans who are already part of the ecosystem and had been living alongside these birds for lifetimes." I can't imagine how these people function in society unless they only surround themselves with idiots like themselves who talk and think exactly the same way. Because it's obvious that you put any kind of a real, actual lens of life on these people's thought processes and they crumble like dust. This is nothing more than postmodern racist thinking at its worst. And these are the people teaching your children. These are the professionals. Forewarned, folks. Forewarned. All right, moving on to the economy. One of the big things we've been hearing ever since last year was that this country needs a $15 an hour minimum wage. Federal minimum wage needs to be a living wage, we've been told over and over again. People can't survive on $7 and X cents an hour. Not understanding that no one was meant to survive on minimum wage. Minimum wage was designed as a way to promote a certain level of earnings for entry-level positions from which you were supposed to work your way up. No one is supposed to stay at minimum wage. That's not its function. But of course, as a number of economists have pointed out, including the incredible Thomas Sowell, the actual minimum wage is zero. If you're not working, that's what you're making. Zero. And the minimum wage as it stands right now can be considered a racist policy because it holds back less educated youth, who are mainly minorities, from being able to get jobs because they won't necessarily be able to produce at the rate that that minimum wage requires. So instead of being able to give them a lower wage and allow them to work themselves into the company, you're fronted a particular number, and if they can't meet that productivity-wise, then you won't hire them. That is the actual effect of minimum wage. It's been known for decades. But far be it from the federal government to step back from a policy that hurts because it looks good and it sounds good. So anyway, we heard from Bernie Sanders, we heard from AOC, et cetera, even Biden, $15 an hour, $15 an hour, $15 an hour. And what did we all say from the very beginning? You'll kill jobs. Companies can't afford, especially smaller companies, small businesses, can't afford to pay that kind of wage without either cutting back hours or cutting back employees altogether. And we saw that quite extensively in New York City when they pulled the $15 an hour minimum wage bit. Businesses closed all over the city because they couldn't afford it, and they decided to just take their losses and probably move to Florida and open up there, which thousands of them did. Thousands of people a month moved to Florida from New York and New Jersey specifically for reasons like that, along with higher taxes and educational opportunities. It's a matter of fact. We were also told that companies would automate to take away jobs so they wouldn't have to pay the higher wages. And we started seeing that. McDonald's, Burger King started introducing self-serve kiosks where you wouldn't even have to talk to someone to order your food. You'd punch it in, it'd go to the back, they'd make it, maybe right, maybe not, you never know, and you'd get your food. If you want to call Burger King and McDonald's food. I certainly wouldn't. And it's not just them. It's also the quote-unquote enlightened in corporate America, including Amazon. You may or may not know, but some years ago, Amazon started a basic automated checkout process in a couple of stores in Washington State. They had a thing where you would check into the store with an Amazon account. There's Amazon Now, I believe, where you can actually use your palm to be read, and that would sign you into the store. You can also use an Amazon card, things like that. And then as you move through the store and would take items from the shelves, the store would automatically put that item in your shopping cart pay list, and then you could just walk out the store or check out, again, using your palm or your card, and you would automatically be charged for what you grabbed. And they did a test market, and it worked. And so now they are opening up a full-sized Amazon Fresh store that will use that technology. They will have a few actual cashier lanes for people who aren't comfortable with automation. But certainly the large majority of jobs that you would see at stores are either stockers or checkout personnel. Those are going to be a thing of the past at stores like at this Amazon Fresh store. And again, this is woke culture, folks. These are the people who were told should be the leader in making things affordable for the youth in America, to making things available for them to be more productive in society. When in fact, Amazon is saying, we're taking these entry-level jobs and we're crushing them through automation. That's exactly what's going on. But this store will be opening in Washington State, and you can expect quite a few more of them. I'm sorry, Amazon One. I said Amazon Now. It's Amazon One. It says here, the new store will also allow for customers to use Amazon One to scan their palm or insert a credit or debit card linked to their Amazon account to enter the store. The store will open on June 17th at the Marketplace at Victoria Square Mall in Bellevue, Wisconsin. There you have it. Story, by the way, from the Daily Wire by Ian Howarth. So as I teased, article from the Wall Street Journal here, archived, of course, as to quote the inimitable 6X and Hammer 666. It's a very fascinating piece about how fluid the job market has become since last year. How people are moving in between careers at a very high rate compared to the old days. It used to be you wanted to get into a company, establish yourself, and then move up through the company and gain higher status, higher pay, etc., and job security. Now it seems the trend is to get yourself out into the marketplace and move around and pick up different skill sets until you ultimately decide where you want to be and then move in there and then grow yourself accordingly. But not initially. It's not this is what I majored in college, this is the job I want, this is the job I'll keep. It's, well, here are my skills here, and once I get this job, maybe I'll learn more skills, and then I can go over there. It's a fascinating piece. But the biggest part of this, I think, is something that's being discussed a little bit more and more lately, and I want to get into in full. One trend some employers are seeing, high turnover among the newest employees, many of whom started remotely and have never met coworkers in person. During the pandemic, Detroit-based Ally Financial Incorporated took on around 2,000 employees, quote, that have never stepped foot within our organization, close quote, and turnover is highest amongst that group, said Katie Patterson, the lender's chief human resources officer. Quoting her, it's easier to sustain a relationship right now than to build a relationship, she says. Now, the article doesn't go into any more detail on that, but here's what it really means. And thank you for that, dog. I'll get to that in a second. Don't let me forget. I've talked about this before. Remote working has serious detriments to corporate structure. Among things, you do not build trust amongst your coworkers because you're never in physical contact with them. And body language and facial expressions, things like that, are things that help you become more, I'm using the word technically, intimate with other people. You socialize with them that way. That's how you build relationships. Not just verbally, but through physical and social cues as well. Well, all that is lost online. All of it. So your team building suffers intensely. Also, people don't learn their job at the same rate they do online as they do in person. A lot of times what a company would do is take someone fairly new to the job and they would put them in close proximity to someone who knew the ropes better. And the new person could bounce things off the more experienced person and learn from that. They could collaborate. They could brainstorm. Well, that's gone too. So people not only don't advance in their jobs at the same rate working remotely that they would working in the office, but they actually tend to regress. They lose skills because they're not being challenged by same coworkers the way they would be in person. So what we found out recently also is that a lot of people, including a very large portion of the people who work for Apple, are refusing to go back to physical office spaces or cubicles, whatever you want to describe it as. You may have seen the structure. Apple built a huge flying saucer-shaped complex for its company. I can't remember where exactly it's at. It's on the West Coast. I think it's in California. But it looks exactly like a space saucer. And it was designed in part by Steve Jobs at the time to encourage people walking around, bumping into each other, and brainstorming. But when Apple sent out the notices to its remote employees saying, hey, we're opening up the campus, everybody come back, a lot of people said, no, I like working remotely. I don't want to have to start driving again. I don't want to have to start getting dressed in nice clothes again. I'm staying home. And if you don't let me stay home, I'm quitting. And so Apple is facing a major revolt, especially amongst new employees. We're talking a multi-billion-dollar building that may never get fully utilized because of this new work structure that we've seen incorporated because of the pandemic. I don't know what Apple's going to do. I really don't. It's not like this kind of person just falls off the tree every day, especially when we see so many people getting all of these soft degrees now, all of these social grievance degrees. It'll be interesting to see how Apple figures this out. But there's no way they're going to be able to sell that building, that's for sure. So a lot going on here, a lot going on. But again, this article from the Wall Street Journal, very interesting. Now also, regarding work rules, this could have some serious implications for American workforces. I'm not saying it's definitely going to become canon here in the U.S., but this is a major step forward. This is an article from justthenews.com, an excellent website. Check it out every day, by their Greg Piper. I've never read an article by Greg Piper before, but it's a fascinating look at a court battle that a gender-critical feminist named Maya Forstater has been fighting in the UK. She, as a gender-critical feminist, does not agree that men can become women and women can become men. She believes that this train of thought invades, quote-unquote, the space for women. And she's been making that case for years. She was employed, and her job decided that her stance, this, by the way, the Center for Global Development, her job decided that she was being inherently transphobic with these remarks. She also has gotten into some social media spats with trans people and gender-neutral people who have accused her of deliberately misgendering them by using the wrong pronouns. She said that in the majority of these instances it was inadvertent, but she's not saying that she's never done it. But anyway, she was fired for these views. And a UK court has ruled that that firing was against her rights. Now, this was an appeal. There was an original hearing about this. And the hearing, according to the appeals court, screwed up because they focused on whether or not her views were proper, as opposed to what her rights were. And the appeals court said, you guys blew it. You had no business talking about whether or not what she thought was valid. What you had to do was rule on the basis of the law. And she has certain rights under the European Convention of Human Rights. The court said that only beliefs akin to Nazism or totalitarianism are excluded from protection under this convention. And they also said that forced staters' beliefs are widely shared and worthy of respect in a democratic society. And those are quotes. Now, they are not hiring her back at present. So we don't see what's going to happen just yet. But we have to keep an eye on this. This could come into light or come into favor in U.S. rulings. We'll have to see. This is obviously a foreign court, foreign laws, but sometimes American law does borrow on European law as a framework. So we'll have to see. Now, I wanted to get to something that Electric Dog put into the chat just a little bit ago. Let me find it again here. Ashley Babbitt's family is suing the D.C. police in a $10 million wrongful death suit. Okay, thank you, Doug. Now, you may have seen Ashley Babbitt's husband and the family's lawyer were on Tucker last night. I was watching this morning. And they confirmed with Tucker that they still don't know the name of the officer who shot his wife, and they still don't know why. We've all seen the video, but there's been no actual public hearing as to what happened and why. Again, we don't know the name of the officer. We only know that there was an internal investigation that found no wrongdoing. But we don't know anything about that investigation, just the conclusion. And obviously the family is taking them to court. Because remember, all we do know is this was a Capitol Police officer. Other than that, we have no information. There are some rumors going around that this officer may have been involved in a previous incident involving a loaded handgun being left behind in a public restroom. I won't get into any more details than that. I have no specific way to back that up, but that is going around on social media right now. It was mentioned last night by Tucker, and the lawyer said that is his belief as well, but that's all it is at current, is a belief. We don't know as a fact. Some people are saying they do know the name of the officer, and that's how they're relating it to this incident with the loaded gun being left behind. But it's all conjecture at this point. So we will keep that in mind. Floyd's family got, I think, $250. $27 million. Yeah, that's it. I was thinking of something else. Yeah, $27 million Floyd's family got. Yeah. All right, moving right along. And again, thank you, Doug, for that. A little state news. Georgia. The election season is not over in Georgia yet. As we know, there have been 3 Georgia counties so far who have been investigated by the Secretary of State's office. Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, is in charge of that, who violated certain Georgia election laws and have been sanctioned for those. It turns out Fulton County, the focus of a great deal of the attention regarding the November election in Georgia, is under the gun yet again. Now remember, there's a court case coming up involving Fulton County and the alleged illegal counting of ballots overnight after poll watchers and media had been told that counting was done for the night and were told to go home. And we have video of after those people leaving, ballots being brought out and counted with no state representatives or no poll watchers there at the time. And that is a direct violation of Georgia law. And some of those workers have been subpoenaed and will be testifying in this court case. But now we have Fulton County under the gun because, according to the Secretary of State's office, some of their forms verifying chain of custody for some mail-in ballots are missing. And so now an investigation is underway on this. Fulton County says they haven't lost the documents, they just can't find them at present, and that they will turn up and everything will be fine. But right now, Raffensperger is saying, we're looking into this, and I'll quote him in a statement, quote, "New revelations that Fulton County is unable to produce all ballot drop box transfer documents will be investigated thoroughly, as we have with other counties that failed to follow Georgia rules and regulations regarding drop boxes. This cannot continue." And again, that's Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Raffensperger had previously announced similar probes in Coffee, Grady, and Taylor counties. In doing so, he alleged that the state's other 120 counties had properly completed absentee ballot transfer forms. So we'll keep an eye on this. An article from the Epoch Times, by the way, by Zachary Steiber. Another thing going on the way. By the way, I am keeping an eye, on the Arizona Maricopa County audit. I haven't forgotten it. I look at it every day, basically, but I'm waiting for something definitive to happen. So far, this is going on, that is going on, this challenge has been made, this challenge has been made. I'm waiting for an actual answer. I don't want to get into the back and forth. I think that would just take up too much time. But I am paying close attention to Arizona. Electric Dog is keeping me focused, especially with his links to the Doug Tenaple, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, videos. Doug's been all on top of it, and so he's been a great source of information. But as soon as something definitive comes through, I will bring it to you, I absolutely promise. But we will be keeping an eye on Georgia as well. Now remember, Wisconsin right now is undergoing a review, and there is a rumor that Pennsylvania is going to be doing the same within the next few weeks. So it just that stuff's happening, folks. Stuff's happening. Now, I am not saying that any of these audits will change anything. I'm not saying there's anything to find that would change anything. That would be against YouTube policy, and I would never do that, ever. I would never suggest that something happened because I can't suggest it. So therefore, I would never suggest it unless I was on Trovo or DLive and could actually speak my mind. But that's another story entirely. Moving right along. So as I said, teased earlier, there has been a bill introduced by Republican lawmakers or legislatures, depending on your point of view, yesterday that would block federal funds from public schools from being used to teach the 1619 Project. This is an article, again, from the Epoch Times by Isabel Van Bruggen. And in case you haven't been paying attention, the 1619 Project, an offshoot of the Marxist teaching model critical race theory, has been criticized for attempting to rewrite American history as fundamentally racist and disregarding the merits of the nation's founding documents. The controversial project has been panned by historians as having false information. Quoting the bill, the 1619 Project is a, quote, racially divisive and revisionist account of history that threatens the integrity of the Union by denying the true principles on which it was founded. Now, we have, unfortunately, a Democrat-dominated House and a split Senate with Harris casting the tie-breaking votes. So I certainly don't see this getting through as actual legislation now. But introduce a bill Wait till 2022, see what happens. Bring it back up again after January 13th, 2023, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But this is a shot across the bow, folks, and I think it's great. This is every now and then Republicans do something right, and we have to give them credit. This is one of those times. Speaking of Congress, we've been hearing a lot about the infrastructure bill. Initially, it was proposed to be a $4 trillion package, with part of it going towards quote-unquote infrastructure, like broadband across the nation, and some actual infrastructure, things like highways, roads, tunnels, and bridges, and airports. But there was also a separate side to it where the Democrats wanted to subsidize everything. Health care, child care, etc. They wanted to subsidize everything in order to make it, quote-unquote, more affordable. Of course, they'd be raising your taxes. We've already seen a huge increase in inflation just over the past few weeks. Gasoline is now at its highest price in 7 years. Food prices are going up. We just bought a bunch of peanut butter, and I found out, honestly, about 40 minutes ago that the prices of peanut butter are going up. It turns out I haven't had any fat in my diet for a very long time. I've been concentrating on protein, but I had not ever thought about the fact that I wasn't getting in any fat. And it came to me all of a sudden the other day, and I got a great suggestion from my new dental assistant at my dentist's office, whom I will be seeing again tomorrow. And she said peanut butter, natural peanut butter, the kind that you have to stir. And we bought a jar of Skippy natural, but the Skippy natural you don't have to stir. It stays mixed up. The oil doesn't separate. But we also got some packets. Oh, here's one right here. We also got some packets of Skippy peanut butter. These are little 32-gram servings, 190 calories per package, and 21% of your daily required fat intake. Saturated fats and zero trans fats. And I feel better. I've got more energy in the evening than I did before. So it's a good call. I'm really happy. But the price of peanut butter is going up very, very soon. Bacon is higher. Milk is higher. And try to find beef right now with those plants getting shut down due to the cyber hack without paying through the nose. There's a lot of stuff going on. By the way, if you're a big beef cooker, check out yesterday's Dave Rubin report. It's on YouTube and on theblazetv.com. Dave has a new sponsor. It's an American beef outlet. They locally source organic beef, free-range beef. And he held up a piece of meat that looked like a big rack of ribs, like a 10, 15-pound rack of ribs. It was actually a ribeye. That whole piece of meat was a single ribeye steak. It could feed 20 people, at least. It was massive. I didn't know you could get a ribeye that big. It was beautiful. The marbling, everything was just gorgeous. We don't have any freezer space for extra meat, but I want to buy, I know it would be very hard to find, but I would like to buy our own chest freezer to put downstairs so we can start having some extra beef around the house, because we love to grill. We have a really cheap old Sears grill, but it still works, and Picasso Nose is a very good griller, believe it or not, and I'd like to get into this. But so yeah, Electric Dog says it best. Fat makes stuff taste good. That's why I prefer ribeyes over filet mignons, because of the marbling. All right, continuing along. Now let's get into... I'm sorry. I talked myself right out of that story. I walked right away from it. Please forgive me. Anyway, so we had a $4 trillion package announced by the White House, and Congress went nuts. The Republicans said, no way in hell are we doing that. No way in hell. Initially, some Republican lawmakers went to Biden. There was a White House meeting, and they proposed about, I think it was $690 $95 billion package to concentrate specifically on actual physical infrastructure. And Biden basically threw them out on their ear and said, no way in hell. So they've been going back and forth. Last week, Biden said that it seemed there was not going to be any more bipartisan movement on this bill. But we just hear today an article from justthenews.com by Nicholas Balassi that perhaps this has changed. According to this article from this morning, there is a new package put together with a bipartisan group of senators, and that the White House is in the process of reviewing it. It's a $1 trillion framework. I know. Where are the Republicans when it comes to spending? Well, folks, small government, low spending Republicans are a thing of the past, I'm afraid. I don't believe they exist anymore. They certainly didn't under Trump. And of course, part of that was due to the complete denuding of the military by Obama during his 8 years. But there were other programs that cost a lot of money. And some of it was well spent. Some of it you could have argued about. But it seems that this $1 trillion package may have some legs with the White House. Now, we know last week, Bernie Sanders said that there was no way he was voting for the bipartisan package that had been introduced at that point in time. But that was a few days ago. This is brand new. So we'll have to see what happens. But there is still a chance that part of this could get a bipartisan vote, and then part of it could be jammed through because the Democrats still have one bite at the reconciliation apple left. Now, we'll have to see if the quote-unquote moderate Dems like Sinema and Manchin will go for a huge, massive increase in federal spending like the one that's being proposed by Biden. We don't know yet, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. But obviously, Biden is in Europe right now getting his head handed to him, being laughed at by people from all over the world. So we'll have to see what happens when he gets back. By the way, did you hear how he was trashing Republicans yesterday while in Europe? I guess he forgot the old phrase, politics stops at the water's edge. You're not supposed to politic when you're doing international negotiations. You're supposed to stick to the script, which is international policy. But far be it from Biden to miss an opportunity to stick his foot in his mouth. What an idiot. What an absolute idiot. Continuing along. Congress is also getting up in the grill of the State Department because it seems that the state lifted sanctions on a big-time al-Assad ally, the dictator of Syria. And they didn't contact Congress about it. And these were congressional sanctions. So there are a number of Republicans who want to know just what's going on here. I am proud to say that the leader of this effort is my own congressman from Wisconsin first, Representative Brian Steele, whose name I always misspell, but Representative Steele is very good. We're very happy to have him, and he is out in front on this. Let me read you a bit from this article. This is an exclusive from the Washington Free Beacon by Adam Credo from yesterday afternoon. Representative Brian Steele and colleagues are demanding the Biden administration hand over internal documents related to its decision to lift sanctions on businesses connected to Samer Faz, a Syrian oligarch who has worked closely with the Iranian regime to fund Assad's war machine. The Biden administration also lifted sanctions on several former Iranian government officials and companies tied to the country's illicit oil trade, which has included smuggling crude oil to Syria. So to quote my rep here, Brian Steele, these delistings come as the Biden administration finalizes nuclear agreement discussions with the Iranian regime. I want answers as to whether these individuals and entities, now removed from U.S. sanctions, are still committing sanctionable conduct, like funding the brutal Assad regime in Syria or terrorism around the world. I remain concerned that this is another concession by the U.S. in an effort to appease Iran and rejoin the flawed Iranian nuclear deal. So they want all documents and internal administration communications regarding the delisting process and any evidence that was used to justify the claim that the individuals and businesses in question are no longer engaging in sanctionable activities. The lawmakers also want the administration to verify for Congress, quote, that these individuals and entities have not engaged in other sanctionable conduct. So we'll see how this goes. We all saw this coming from miles away. We knew as soon as it was certain that this administration would take hold that the sanctions on Iran and entities associated with it were going to be coming off immediately. And that has been the case and is continuing to be the case. And I don't see the State Department following through on this request at all. I expect them to fully stonewall Congress, just as the DOJ has been stonewalling Congress over a number of issues that we discussed at length yesterday. But at least the Republicans are trying. Let's see if they keep the heat on. So getting near the end of the YouTube block, a little short today, but a bit of another light news day, seeing as how the idiot is overseas. But I have an article here from Breitbart. Very, very fascinating. It seems that Hunter Biden is entering the art world. Yes, Hunter Biden is entering the art world. He has a private showing coming up in New York City, in Soho, as a matter of fact, sponsored by Soho art dealer Georges Berger. And Hunter's going to have an exhibition in New York in the coming months with prices for his artwork ranging from $75,000 to $500,000. And this is an article from Breitbart by Hannah Blue. I love Hannah, good author. And yeah, Hunter is basically hanging out in his multi-million-dollar Los Angeles home, the one he purchased while claiming poverty and being unable to support the love baby he created with a stripper, a baby that he denied siring, and was forced to finally submit to a paternity test, which he failed, or which the mother won, depending on your point of view, and has consistently denied that he owes any money because he doesn't have any. But obviously, he certainly got enough for a multi-million-dollar home and art supplies. But according to Berger, Hunter's work will range from $75,000 for works on paper to $500,000 for large-scale paintings. Now, I've got some quotes from Hunter here as to how his art happens. But this is the best part of the article. Again, always read all the way through, because it's not the top stuff that's really good. It's the meat and the bottom. This is what I like. Money laundering in the art world has been identified as an issue, as detailed by a bipartisan Senate investigation last year. Quoting the report, the Senate report details how a pair of Russian oligarchs with ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin allegedly seized on the secrecy of the art industry to evade sanctions by making more than $18 million in high-value art purchases. Quote, "This is just the tip of the iceberg," said investigators for the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. The art world is considered to be the largest legal, unregulated industry in the U.S., according to the Senate investigation. Further on, the Rottenberg example and many other investigations highlight the fact that, unlike selling stock or making routine bank transfers, art sales through auction houses are not subject to anti-money laundering provisions in the Bank Secrecy Act. When art is sold, according to the report, sellers are not required to confirm the identity of the buyer, nor to make sure the artwork isn't being used to launder dirty money. The Senate report found secrecy, anonymity, and a lack of regulation create an environment ripe for laundering money and evading sanctions. How unlike a Biden to be caught in something shady, right? Heaven forbid, perish the thought. I get the vapors just thinking that it could be even a possibility. Now, here's Hunter explaining his art. I'm quoting directly. "The universal truth is that everything is connected and that there's something that goes far beyond what is our five senses and that connects us all. The thing that really fascinates me is the connection between the macro and the micro, and how these patterns repeat themselves over and over. He also explains that art is, quote, not a tool that I use to be able to, in any way, cope. Rather, Biden said, it, quote, comes from a much deeper place. Berger has praised Hunter's work as it holds an, quote, authenticity that he personally loves. The art dealer said, quote, a lot of the issues that are thrown at Hunter is what makes him produce really great work. Sure. Fine. Okay, whatever. So, Hunter, as we all know, getting audio glitches on DLive, says Dog. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, my connection's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. So it's DLive today. I don't know what's going on with them. Thank you for pointing that out, Dog. But I got a quote Dog also here. He says, I'm going to go to his galleries and vomit. I think that would probably raise the price of the art, Dog. I think you would actually create even better art by doing that. I suggest swallowing a few different colored paints before you upchuck, and boom, live performance art. I say go for it. But anyways, I was saying, as we know, our current president, 46 asterisk, has declared that Hunter is the smartest person he's ever known. Oh, okay. So, what some people used to say back in the day, whenever you would hear something odd like that, is consider the source. Consider the source. And so, I have something here from Sky News by a gentleman named Chris Kenny. And he has a podcast on the media that I just discovered today, and I like it. I like it a lot. I put the link in the chat earlier. If you want to find it, you just got to type in Chris Kenny podcast. That's Chris with a C, Kenny with a K and two N's, one E, Chris Kenny podcast, and you'll find it. I like it a lot. I'm going to try and make room for it in my day. But I have a piece from Chris Kenny's, from a piece he did on Sky News just the other day. This is from skynewsaustralia.com, by the way. And it's a little over 4.5 minutes long. But this shows you a couple of pieces of Biden stumbles and gaffes from this past weekend. This is not an exhaustive look at all. In fact, it doesn't even completely show one of the full train wrecks that Biden did, just a piece of it. But I'm going to play this in full. Again, I don't normally play clips this long, but again, it was a kind of a light news day today, and I've got time. So please enjoy the musings of Chris Kenny on 46 asterisk and his meltdown during his European tour. Here we go.
But I want to start with something that Chris Smith touched on this program last night. The Joe Biden gaffes, the stumbles, the confusion, they just continue and they get worse. Seriously, his staff probably can't wait to get him home to bed in the White House. But before he does that, the president has to go face to face with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which is a big worry given what I'm about to show you. And believe me, most of the media just doesn't show you this stuff. Now, some of these clips are a bit long, but I want you to get a proper sense of what's going on here, a proper sense of how the US president is handling it. First up, top of the agenda between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin ought to be Syria. But in the lead up, the US president seems to confuse that country with Libya.
We could work together with Russia. For example, in Libya, we should be opening up the passes to be able to go through and provide food assistance and vital assistance to a population that's in real trouble.
Watch Biden, by the way, as he talks. Watch him refer to notes. He refers to notes, and he still does what he does 3 times. Here we go.
I think I'm going to try very much hard to. It is. And by the way, there's places where. I shouldn't be starting off and negotiating in public here, but let me say it this way. Russia has engaged in activities which we believe are contrary to international norms, but they have also bitten off some real problems they're going to have trouble chewing on. And for example, the rebuilding of Syria, of Libya, they're there. And as long as they're there without the ability to bring about some order in the region, and you can't do that very well without providing for the basic economic needs of people. So I'm hopeful that we can find an accommodation where we can save the lives of people for example, in Libya.
Libya or Syria? Does he know? Wow. Putin must be trembling in his boots, hey, on the eve of this summit. We seem to have gone from Russian collusion to Russian delusion, because just have a listen to how Joe Biden responds to this question about how he's described Vladimir Putin in the past.
In a weekend interview, Vladimir Putin laughed at the suggestion that you had called him a killer. Is that still your belief, sir, that he is a killer? And I'll continue the trend if you don't mind of asking a second question. Do you believe if he does agree to cooperate, then what kind of a challenge do you find yourself in? How would you ever trust him? And if Ronald Reagan said trust but verify, what do you say to Vladimir Putin?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. Well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is, I believe he has in the past essentially acknowledged that he was, there are certain things that he would do or did do. But look, when I was asked that question on air, I answered it honestly. But it's not much of I don't think it matters a whole lot in terms of this next meeting we're about to have.
Whew. If you could just draw all that together, I guess he's saying, yeah, he is a killer, but that doesn't matter now. Gee, it's more than awkward, isn't it? Biden's going to be representing the interests of the free world when he confronts the belligerent Russian president in their Geneva summit tomorrow. And it's hardly shaping up as Rocky Balboa versus Ivan Drago, is it? I said before the election that the Biden campaign had all the hallmarks of a weekend at Bernie's effort. Now he leads the free world. Biden has the opposite problem to Donald Trump. Trump refused to stay on script and was too blunt for many people, especially in diplomacy. Biden can only work by reading a script. Once he wanders off on his own, no one knows where he's going to end up. It's a worry for the US, for you and me, but not for Putin.
All right, that is Chris Kenny. Chris with a C, Kenny with a K, 1 E. I closed it because it was going to open up another video, and I didn't want to get into that. But that is a thing, folks. That is a thing. For those of you who missed it, there was a Putin interview over the weekend, I think with NBC actually, and Putin was on the offensive the entire interview. I'll just give you one bit of it. I don't have it pulled up, but when Putin was asked about Navalny, the dissident whom we've covered a number of times on the show, first of all, Putin refused to even acknowledge that Navalny was a person. The reporter kept trying to get Putin to say Navalny, and Putin said, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. And then when the reporter tried to pin Putin down on his human rights record, Putin said, basically, in America right now, you people have jailed a bunch of Trump supporters for trying to make their voices heard in Congress. And the reporter was pretty well dumbstruck for a period of time. Putin also said, who ordered the assassination of Ashley Babbitt? Who ordered the assassination of that woman? Ball's in your court, Joe. Best of luck. All right. That is it for the YouTube block, y'all. Thank you for being here. For those of you who enjoy the morning Witcher 3 streams, we're about done cleaning up the unknown locations on the map. And then we're going to finish up Blood and Wine, the main quest. We're about, I'd say, a third of the way into it right now. So a lot to do. But tomorrow we will not be starting at the normal time of 8 Eastern. I have the dentist appointment that I thought was yesterday. It is, in fact, tomorrow. And I will not be on the air for about an hour and a half. And then I hope to be on around at 9:30 Eastern. And I'll play all the way up through 12:30 Eastern. I'll play an extra half hour, so we'll get a good 2 hours of gameplay tomorrow. But expect me to be an hour and a half late at least, perhaps closer to an hour and 45 minutes. But I am planning on being on tomorrow morning. And then, of course, the news rodeos, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we'll have the rest of the morning streams at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, and then this weekend, not only starting at 9 a.m. in the morning, but hopefully having afternoon streams after I finish lunch, starting at 2:30 Eastern. And again, after we finish the Blood and Wine DLC of Witcher 3, we will be moving on to Far Cry 5. I got the game guide to Far Cry 5 yesterday. It's huge. I'm really looking forward to it. That was a suggestion, by the way, by one of my erstwhile Trovo viewers, whom I haven't seen in a while, actually. I hope they're okay. But anyway, I have actually gone long on YouTube. So today I will remember to turn YouTube off, by the way, unlike yesterday. So YouTube, I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.